Welcome to Chamber Talk with North Orange County Chamber. I'm Andrew Gregson, and our guest today is Senator Janet Nguyen. Thank you very much, Senator Nguyen, for sharing time with us today and joining us and being part of our Chamber podcast. Thank you for coming up.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you for having me. I'm actually very excited.
Excellent. Starting today's conversation, I thought, as you know, some of our audience might not know you in our area now. Would you mind sharing a little bit about you yourself and your upbringing and background and things like that?
Thank you, Andrew. I'm actually excited because of the redistricting, my Senate district actually now encompasses a lot of the northern part of the county of Orange. Right, so I currently represent about 1 million people, a little over 1 million people.
Okay,
and we're probably roughly around 20 plus cities, because a lot of unincorporated cities, so they're not really considered a city on its own. So if you look at it, my district I started in Los Angeles County with Artesia, Hawaiian Gardens, and Cerritos. Mm-hmm. And then we go into Orange County. We have half the city of Buena Park, mm-hmm. La Palma, Cypress, Stanton, Los Al, Rossmore, part of 90% of city of Garden Grove, Midway, unincorporated area of Midway City, the city of Westminster, Fountain Valley. Then we go to the entire coast of Orange County, the 41 miles. So Seal Beach, Huntington Beach, Newport Beach, Laguna Beach, Dana Point, San Clemente, and also Capistrano Beach.
Wow, that is a long strip.
It's a very long district, and so basically we represent half of the cities within Orange County is in my district.
Right.
It's a gorgeous district. We are right now having the influx, and we love it, all the tourism that we need in the coast and the rest of the district. So really appreciate all those who are coming to Orange County to visit my district.
So just on a quick note there, that's a large area to cover. How does one cover such an area?
Yeah, so we each senator we have two offices. We have one in the Capitol, and then the other one we have is down in our district office, mm-hmm. where I have staff there, and each of my staff represents regional areas or areas of interest. So we'll have someone up north to cover the cities up north, so that because there's a lot of community of interest, so you want one person who will be able to network and get to know the community in the surrounding area. And then we also have a backup. Always have a backup. So there's basically two field representative or district representative or senior representative per area, either by city or by regional areas. And so our district office is based in Huntington Beach on Main Street in Huntington Beach. And the reason for that is because it's actually nicely centrally located. Mm-hmm. From Huntington Beach to the northern point of my district, which is Artesia, mm-hmm. would take roughly about 55 minutes without traffic.
Right.
And if you go from Huntington Beach all the way to San Clemente, it's roughly about the same, 55 minutes without traffic. So we try to make it so that's central enough that everybody who needs to get to us can. We communicate with constituents either by calling into our office, our emails, my staff emails, whether they call the Capitol office or our district office. We're able to assist. Sometimes they need to come in to our office for extra help. Other times we usually are able to help via the phone or via email.
And that's actually a great topic you just passed on there, because a lot of our audience might not know exactly what type of things or why they would approach you. Why would somebody maybe, give me a couple of examples, because I'm sure there's loads, why somebody might approach your office or get in touch with you?
Majority of our folks who reach out to us are actually giving us their opinion of a position that mm-hmm. they want, whether they want to support a certain bill or they want to oppose it and why. Mm-hmm. So a lot of folks who emails, most of those actually more emails, we get thousands a week. Obviously, a lot outside my district, and our priority, because of staffing, we prioritize and respond to only our constituent and not those outside of state or up north.
That makes sense.
So hopefully their senators would then communicate with them directly instead. So that's one. The other part is when it comes to asking for help. Mm-hmm. We have jurisdiction over state agencies,
Okay.
such as the Franchise Tax Board. So if a business has issues or problems with the Franchise Tax Board, can't get communication directly with a staff at a specific department within the Franchise Tax Board, our office can help. If you during a couple years ago during COVID, when a lot of folks were dealing with EDD. Our office, when I was in the assembly, we helped thousands of individuals who cannot get through EDD, cannot get their funding for their unemployment, or the unemployment got cut, or or their paperwork didn't get through, and they sent it. It said it got through. EDD said it didn't, so it stopped the payment. All sorts of stuff with EDD, we're able to help. Those who need help with DMV. So you name it, any issues that deals with any department within the state of California, there are ways for us to reach out to those departments that has specific staff within the department that helps constituent cases for members as well. Not all department has that, but a lot of them do. But if not, we reach out directly to the directors of those departments.
That is a lot of areas to be dealt with, isn't it?
Yes. And in addition, though, Andrew, we also, because we have so many cities and we have relationship with our cities and either the mayor, council members, city managers, public works, planning department, you name it. We have constituents who say, hey, I've been trying to work through the city and we're having a hard time. So a lot of times we do get involved and we help connect them to the city, to the mayor or the council member. If it's a district, we help connect them to that council member, and then the process gets moving with them and their local elected officials. And now we do that with the county as well. County has lots of departments. I formerly was on the Orange County Board of Supervisors. So the county has over 20 departments its own. And that's just the county, not including the Orange County Transportation Authority and all that stuff. So we work with the quasi agencies in Orange County, like the Transportation Authority, like the Orange County Water District, like the Orange County Sanitation District, you name it. So when constituent calls us, we don't just limit ourselves to the State Department. Obviously, we can get a direct help to State Department because that's within our jurisdictions. But we do, though, help other areas as we can. And even, we've got folks who call on federal issue. We would then look up their address because our district, my district is within the 3 congressional members.
Okay.
And so we do assist and work with those congressional offices. And it's bipartisan when we try to assist constituents. And so if those offices can assist us to help, then we move forward and assist them working with the congressional office as well.
That's an awful lot. And to be honest, it's quite strange, isn't it? Because until you shared I know some of the things you did, but not all of it, is chambers actually do a very small but similar job, but in a smaller scale. So when people are calling in and they want to know what's going on with the city, then we try and put them in touch with the right people in the city. It's quite strange that really it just keeps filtering up, or should I say it the other way around, isn't it? Starts at the top and filters down. But we're all doing a similar thing to get along. But thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. And our goal has always been, for me, is I always tell my staff, is that it's very difficult for anyone to call a government agency office.
Yeah.
It is so complex, and you end up getting transferred a million times, and you never get to the right person. No. So it's very frustrating. So really look at us as the one who would let us be your filter. Let us help you, get you to where you need to. It might take us a little longer, might not be in seconds,
right?
But we will get you to the right individual and to be able to assist. But on top of just not only doing constituent cases, our other job is to represent the district. Whether that is representing the district, for me specifically, is when I'm in Sacramento, I vote on thousands of bills. This year alone, the state legislative body has combined, collectively, state senate and the assembly have introduced approximate 2,700 bills. And so I get to go up there, and whether it's in a committee hearing or on the Senate floor, I get to represent my constituent and, to my best knowledge, what is best that I believe my constituent would want me to vote yes or no on.
Right.
And then the other part that I do and my staff does is that we represent the district, like going to the chambers, ribbon cutting, going to the Boys and Girls Club, going to the city council meeting, going to the school board meeting,
holding a blood drive,
holding blood drive, because we have the entire 41-mile coast of Orange County, we have monthly a beach cleanup, which we give our volunteers hours, and we sign it for high school students, college students who needs those volunteer hours. We have interns that are in our office during the summer, and we have them throughout the year as well to sign off and give them those volunteer hours that they need the credit for. And so we, our job is not only representing in terms of being the voice of constituents and my residents in regards to positions of bills, but also to making sure that they get the resources they need. And need or want for their family and their neighborhood. And so we connect and work very closely with our local government, closely with the community leaders and business leaders, because what business leaders to me has always been is that they are the backbone of our local economy. If we don't have these small businesses, it's done. We're done.
We've got nothing.
There's no jobs available. I mean, if you look at it, if a small business opens a business in that city, you create jobs, and when you create jobs, you bring in revenues for the city as in taxes. You bring, by creating those jobs, you create, you allow that your employee to have an income to provide for his or her family, and so overall, it's the best scenario and the best thing for our community is the small business, and we have to boost them and continue to foster them and help them, and shop locally.
Yeah.
Obviously, I've got 20 plus cities, so it's so I always encourage everybody, hey, shop locally, shop and look at those small business, because that mom and pop, they're working their 10-15 hours a day just to do whatever they can to provide for their family.
That's true. And actually, what a great lead in you just did for me, so thank you. Talking about business, looking through, and if anybody wants to look up the senator, there is loads of fascinating information, and you are very experienced and seasoned in the political field. However, it does state that you are or were a business owner. You want to share a little bit about your business just before we go on to a few more of your current business stuff?
Yes. So my family, we grew up with having restaurants, and my husband and I also have had restaurants in the past as well. And we have consulting businesses and small businesses that helps other businesses, whether navigate through the government or navigate through business plan as well. And so, growing up, I remember when my parents had their restaurant, I was probably 10 years old or something like that. And I remember going in there, and because my parents at the time didn't speak English very well, and it was just a noodle shop. It's one of those faux restaurants. It was one of the first faux restaurants in Orange County.
My wife loves faux.
And so we, when I got there, and they didn't understand why the city kept on saying that the paper towel is not correct in the bathroom, and I didn't understand. So I'm standing there trying to translate this. Apparently, we were like a few inches apart, and it wasn't aligned correctly at the right.
Or it has something to do with somebody being able to reach it or something?
Yes, I don't remember.
Okay, that's weird.
But what I remember though is how difficult government is.
Right.
To a family who my parents couldn't speak English well, trying to provide for the family. And so it really honed on the fact that I'm always very concerned with that. If we're going to try to explain, we're going to try to help. Government should not be in the way.
Right.
We should be more helpful.
There's obstacles, isn't it? You're putting obstacles in
always,
the way,
I mean,
right?
It's like an inch or two. It's like, really? And now you're not going to let us open the restaurant because of an inch or two of a paper towel.
Right. And then, of course, now you're translating it to language translation, as we just had a conversation with earlier. It doesn't always compute the right way.
Yep.
Yeah, it does make it.
Yeah.
In fact, that's a great thing. And what type of challenges, that was a good story, but what type of other challenges do you feel that maybe you experience as a business owner that your office now might help a business owner through.
Yeah. So, for example, a few years ago when AB 5 was voted in, which forced everybody who were independent contractors in California to not be able to be independent contractors anymore. Of course, there were some exemption with that. And that means is that you have to have an LLC.
Mm-hmm.
So, when people have to file to get an LLC, it's actually a simple form, but very complex for someone who's not a lawyer or someone who is she's a consultant because she wants to help do a few articles, freelance, reporter.
It's not very self-explanatory at all.
It's very difficult. And so in order to get an LLC, 90% of people try to do it on their own, and then they end up having to hire a lawyer, which would cost them probably $1,000.
Right.
And that's a lot of money for an individual who's a sole proprietor. And so I had to go through that process.
Right.
And it was so complex. What I do know is that within the department of the Franchise Tax Board, there are staff there that can assist and guide you through the process. But it wasn't until I tried to figure it out myself and then did it on my own. But it's not an easy task. And so that's where I think is that the state of California, we need to make sure that we help, not hurt. AB 5, when they got rid of the independent contractor, over 40% of those individuals who are independent contractors in the state of California are woman-owned.
Really?
So you honestly devastated a whole population who all they wanted was to provide, to do what they do at a home, and do a few projects daily to have an extra income.
That's right.
To help the family.
Yeah.
And so we need to do what we can to help.
Yeah.
And and so we're working toward that process. The other part is, during COVID, restaurants were just devastated. And so now we just did pass this last week a bill that would continue to help. Actually, I think a few days ago, continue to help small restaurant who wants to continue to have that patio, who wants to continue to have the patio seatings, and also to be able to provide food or even beverages, whether it's alcohol, non-alcohol beverages. And those are the kind of things that we're trying to make to continue the process so that these businesses don't have to go, now we have to shut down that area.
Yeah.
Where they invested so much money to put
build it
together,
out.
to building it out, and also
right.
buying the furniture and etc. Now what they can do, resell it. It doesn't. So we need to. I've always am a believer, as I mentioned, is that small businesses is the backbone.
Oh yeah.
We need to help and make sure that less regulation. Let the owner do what they do well.
Right.
Because I always make this comment is that if anybody goes into business just to break even, there's quite a few mental institutions that we can recommend you to, right? Because nobody goes into business working 15 hours a day to break even. And it's not, don't say that the businesses are greedy. They're just trying to provide a little more.
Yeah.
Because as a business owner, you're not only having to worry about the payroll, you're having to worry about workers' comp, insurance, everything in between, foods, if it's a restaurant, ordering food supplies, and restaurants are penny business. They are not at all dollar business. Every penny counts. So that one lettuce that they give extra to the customer is counted as part of whether they make money to be able to pay for their employees or not.
As a business owner myself, and we did the same thing. Throughout COVID, we started our own business because we were both laid off. And so we had to do something. And luckily I had filled those forms out before. So that wasn't too complicated. However, as I was going through it, I was thinking, there are areas here that I'm questioning myself. And even though you've got that 16-page form afterwards that tries to help you through it, doesn't really get there, and you don't have the money to spend $300-400 for some agency to take 2 weeks to go and do that on your behalf. That is true, and you're right. As you're pushing your business forward, it does really do cost money to have people come into your store, or if you're online or wherever you are. And that's part of what the Chamber is all about, isn't it? Small businesses is the majority of ours. We do have medium size, and yes, we have corporations, but at least 70% of our members fall under that small business category. So I'm glad that there's people like yourself out there actually, fighting the good fight and helping that along, because you're totally right. Without small business, we wouldn't have an economy at all. They make up the majority of it. So thank you. Now, you mentioned quite a few things there about some bills, AB, and I know a lot of people don't know too much about it all, and I only know limited amount. AB is an assembly bill, right? And an SB is a Senate bill. Takes some time to get through and what have you. And sort of moving in that area, I wanted to ask you, because it is quite a hot topic right now, fentanyl. And I'm not going to ask you any leading questions because you're the expert. So could you share a little bit about that? And I know there's some bills out there regarding the fentanyl abuse and everything.
Yeah, before I do that, though, Andrew, let me just go through the process of how a bill is introduced and how we get and how long it usually would take. So, for me, is after session ends this year, we start the process of gathering ideas. I'll be honest, the best ideas are the one that comes from the local residents, and just somebody randomly comes up to me and say, Senator, I've been having this problem and I think there should be a bill or a law. I kid you not, those are the best ones that I get to carry.
All right.
And you'd be surprised how many of those I carry and that have passed in the last 7 years. And so when we start with an idea.
Mm-hmm.
So with that idea, I go back to my Sacramento staff and I go,
Right.
hey, here's an idea. Can you research? So then they would start the process with Leg Council.
Mm-hmm.
So they're legislative council for all the 40 senators, or there's 80 assembly members. The assembly members have their own Leg Council as well. So then they start that process. They'll come back to me maybe 4-6 weeks to say, hey, we got this. We saw what, let's just say we want to paint we want everybody who has a bicycle to have it green.
Okay.
Let's just say that.
All right.
So then they'll research the idea and they go, okay, well, there was a bill that was done back in 1983
Mm-hmm.
that they suggested every new bike should be green.
Okay.
So that it whatever the reason is. Okay.
Right. Wasn't an eyesore anymore.
Whatever.
Right.
And it's more noticeable. We don't want black
Right.
so
Bicycles. You get run over.
Yeah.
All right.
So
Okay.
we're going to make up an idea. So then they go, well, in 1983, there's this bill, it passed. And so it already passed. Maybe if you would like to continue this idea, maybe we make it, why don't we amend it saying we want it
Fluorescent.
neon green.
Right.
Instead of dark green.
Yeah.
Let's specify what color green.
Okay.
And then it would come to me and I go, oh, okay, let's do that.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say that part, then it would take another 4 weeks to then get it in actual draft format.
Right.
Okay. Now let's go backwards. So let's say they say, no, there has actually never been a bill like this.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, actually, no. There's been a bill like that, but it did not pass.
Okay.
And I go, well, why? And they go, well, the arguments back then from this committee was this, or the governor vetoed it, and this is where the governor's office, the language why they vetoed it.
Okay.
And then they go, if you want to try it again, we think if you amend that previous bill
Right.
with these language
Mm-hmm.
in these areas,
Mm-hmm.
we might be able to move forward with it.
Okay.
So that's one part, okay?
Right.
When if they said there was something done in the past. Now, let's go to another scenario where they say, never been done, no bill's been done like this before. There are some similar ones, but not exactly what you want.
Right.
And would you like to go forward? And I said, yes, I would like to go forward. And they'll come back. We'll go back and forth on the language draft. And I'll be like, are you sure that's exactly what it would mean? Because remember, these are laws. Once it's passed, attorneys and the court system will have to interpret those laws. And so even if you make a mistake where you don't have a period somewhere or a comma,
Could read differently.
it could be read very differently in the courtroom. And so that's why you see a lot of bills getting amended year after year.
Right. Makes sense.
Because of that.
Yep.
So then that goes through the process. 8 weeks later, we introduce it in December. Every member has to introduce it in December.
Okay.
And so then once it's introduced in the Senate side, you're right. All Senate bills are called SB, which means it's authored by a senator.
Yes.
Or AB, authored by an assembly member. So it goes through, it then introduced, it lands into the Senate Rules Committee or Assembly Rules Committee. In that committee, they then determine where this bill goes to the next committee or committees.
Okay.
So if it touches education and local government, so it would have to go to Gov&Fi and Education Committee. Once it passes both of those houses, it goes onto the Senate floor.
Right.
It passes the Senate floor, it goes to the Assembly. It starts the same process over. It goes to the Assembly Rules. From Assembly Rules, it goes to the committees. Committees, it goes to the Assembly floor. Now, if it gets changed or amended in the Assembly, even though it passed the Assembly floor, it has to go back to the Senate.
Right.
For
Because it's been amended.
It got amended.
You need to do it again, right?
And the amendment could even just be adding Janet Nguyen as a co-author.
Oh, my word.
It doesn't matter
Right.
what the amendment is.
Right.
As long as you change what it was voted on previously in the other house, it has to come back to that house.
Talk about red tape.
Oh, yeah. And then, but actually, this
But it's
one,
a good thing.
It's a good thing.
Yeah, it is.
I would rather,
You'd rather do
I
it.
would rather want to re-see a bill that I voted on.
Of course.
And it could, some bills do change pretty drastically because a lot of these bills, the amendment is because oppositions or because the committee staff and the committee chair says, we don't like it, we're not going to support it. If they don't support it, it's usually pretty difficult to get through, if not impossible. So it's so you want to be able to work with the committee chair and the committee staff to amend your bill so that they're comfortable with it so it moves forward. Because you need, in the end, for a regular bill on the Senate floor is 21 votes.
Right.
On the Assembly floor is 41 votes. That's the majority.
Right.
Now, urgency meaning that it would be effective immediately once the governor signs it or whatever the other reason for urgency is. Those bill requires a 2/3 votes of either house. And so once it's passed on both houses, it goes to the governor, and he has to October this year to sign all bills. If several things happens with the bill, he signs it, it becomes law January 1st of 2024, unless it's an urgency bill. If he doesn't, he can veto the bill, meaning he can say, nope, I don't like it, send it back, and here's the reason why. Or he can leave it alone.
Right.
If he doesn't touch it, it automatically becomes law.
Oh, okay.
I haven't, in the 7 years I've been up here, haven't seen that happen that I'm aware of. But I've heard that, it's been done in the past.
Right. And I'm assuming if you're really wishing for everybody to have a neon green bicycle because you feel that it's going to stop all or as many accidents as possible, how do you go about then going into other parties and bipartisan working? Like, how does that work? Because obviously the more people who are on your side and agreeing with it, I'm assuming because it gets voted, what are the stumbling blocks or possibly the challenges you present you there?
So usually when an idea like that comes up, you then think about, my staff would go, okay, what organization would care for this? So there's a lot of organizations these days that deals with deals with e-bikes. They're nonprofits. They're associations. So then we would then reach out to them and say, hey, what do you think of this idea? And if they go, absolutely not, there's no way, we're going to oppose it, then we go, okay, why? And then what would you like us to look at to consider? So you want to work with the opposition because the less opposition you have on your bill, the easier the path it would be. Because everybody always wants an excuse to vote someone's bill down. And then from there is, working in Sacramento, you have to be able to work outside your own party.
Right.
And if you can't, it's going to be a very difficult place to be.
Right.
And you'll be very unhappy.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, 70% of the bills that pass in Sacramento, we all agree, bipartisan.
Right.
It's that 30%, the very, very specific issues that then draws that party line.
Right.
And those are the issues you hear all over the news. The other ones
you don't hear
are
of
just
at all.
so small. I wouldn't say they're small, but it's not a news headliner
Right.
issue. So no one even talks about it.
Right.
It just passed.
Right.
And so, but, given that I've been in this Senate before, been in the Assembly, I've been able, and currently now in the Senate again in the 36th, I've been able to work bipartisan.
Right.
And have worked really well on a lot of issue. And one thing that I've seen from the Senate side is that we up in Sacramento, we really don't, a lot of us don't take it personal. We, we'll go to bat and we debate we'll fight each other like crazy on the floor at that one issue, that one bill. Literally 2 seconds later, the next bill, I'm standing there
with them. Right.
And even with the author who I was vehemently opposed to in the last bill.
Right.
And the one thing most people don't realize is on the Senate floor, we don't address each other by our name. We address each other by the region we are in.
Oh.
Because then it doesn't become personal.
Oh, that makes sense, doesn't it? Yeah, that's
true.
true.
So when I stand up on the Senate floor, I don't say, I disagree with Senator Andrew.
Right.
It's instead I disagree with the senator from Fullerton.
Right.
Instead, so we all have a cheat sheet in our desk to show the county or the city in their district or their home.
Oh, wow.
So I can say, a lot of folks would address me as, I agree with the senator from Orange County or the senator from Huntington Beach, since my district is in Huntington Beach.
Right.
And so that's kind of what we do, so that we keep it professional and not personal.
That's a very smart idea. Yeah. Do you by any chance think you learnt that when you're on city council? Because that is personal, because you all live together in the same space, don't you?
It's very different. Actually, that is the decorum of the Senate. If I start saying your name, I would be told I'm out of order and that, I need to change it. And so you can't just say it and not, they'll let go 1 or 2 times and then you do it again. They'll be like, wait a minute, Senator.
Right. That's good.
So, and when I was on the city council, it is very different. You deal with 5 and you also deal with the Brown Act. In our state Senate, we don't have the Brown Act. It was really interesting for me as my first year in the Senate, because when I was in the city council and the county board of supervisors, the Brown Act is in effect.
Right.
When I got to the Senate, I don't remember, maybe the first month or something, one of the senator comes up with this little card, and the card has all of our names on it. And he came up to me and he goes, "Hey, Janet, I've got this bill. I wanted to see if you would you support it? Would you oppose it? Can I, anything I can do to answer questions?" And I go, "What bill is it?" And then he explained, I'm like, "Oh yeah, I'm supportive of it." And then he takes his pen and he marks yes on my name. And I'm like, "What's that card?" He goes, "Oh, I'm counting votes." I'm like, "Oh, that's right. It's allowed." In the Senate, it's allowed because you want to make sure you get your 21 votes before you put it forward.
You go forward,
yeah.
right.
And you never know, even though the most simple bill could be stopped because of potential something just happened that morning,
right,
or personality. And so you want to make sure.
Well, they've made movies out of that, haven't they? So
yeah. So it's so that to me was actually unique and interesting because I've lived, my 2 years in the city council and my 7+ years on the board of supervisors, almost 10 years, making
with different rules.
Well, making sure I don't break the Brown Act, and I had to learn it and live it, and not only with those agencies, but of course all the other agency and department subquise agency that I sat on. And then now I get to the Senate, and they're like, "Oh, we can count votes." I'm like, okay. So I went up to the dice and looked at that card and grabbed a card to just see it myself. And it was like, oh, that's pretty cool.
Now, do you think, on that note, do you think you would ever go back into local politics? Do you think that would you ever go back into that field, or you think this is your wheelhouse? You like where you're at right now?
Yeah. So I actually just recently this week announced to run for the Orange County Board of Supervisors again.
All right. Good.
Going back to my old seat.
Okay.
And mainly is because what I look at it is government that's closest to people is the best.
Mm-hmm.
And the County of Orange haven't served there for over 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
They are the agency that all the funding comes in from the state and the federal.
Mm-hmm.
And it's their job to disperse and help local cities, local communities, such as homelessness.
Mm-hmm.
The sheriff department, the DA departments help with crime investigations.
Mm-hmm.
And so these are kind of things where, we need someone who has not only the experience locally, but someone from Sacramento who understand, because also Sacramento continue to just take away local control. And so you need someone who has that expertise and experience from
help gain it back.
And also the relationship in Sacramento that I've been able to build.
Of course.
To be able to say, and I can call a senator in the future and say, hey, Senator X,
Right.
I know that you're trying to do this bill, but this is how it's going to affect my county if you move forward with this.
Right.
And so that's the kind of things that I want to do. And so I have recently announced to run back because I want to be here and I want to be able to directly impact the residents of Orange County and my district.
Oh, good. Well, good for you, and thank you for doing that. It'll be good to see you, around even more. That's okay. That's good.
Yeah. And let's go back to the fentanyl bill.
Please. Excellent. Excellent.
And so the fentanyl bill, for those who don't know this, but fentanyl is the number one leading death of young adults in America today.
Wow.
Between the ages of 18 and 45. Now it's creeping down younger.
Oh, wow.
We have children who are dying at 10, at 8, at 12, at 14. And, Andrew, I have 2 young boys.
Yeah.
My son, both of them, one is 10 years old and the other one is 12.
Right.
So it hits home.
Yes.
For a mom like me, it breaks my heart for me to have to tell my boys last Halloween, because they still love going Halloween trick-or-treating.
Yeah, the candies.
The candies. These candies like Skittles and Smarties are now making it look alike.
Right.
Smarties and Skittles, but are laced with fentanyl.
Yeah.
Poison. And fentanyl kills, one pill kills within 4 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm asking all parents, uncle, aunt, grandma, grandpa, today, if you hear this, I'm begging you to go talk to your children. I'm begging you to talk to your young adults. 90% of individuals who die from fentanyl did not know that it was laced with fentanyl.
Wow.
They never sought for fentanyl in the first place. You can go and buy cocaine and heroin and a painkiller, and you take it, you won't die from those.
Right.
But if it's laced with fentanyl, you will die within 4 minutes.
Yeah.
And so if you have young adults who needs a pain medicine, go make sure and talk to them and say, hey, if you need it, let me know. We'll go to the doctor, we'll go to the pharmacy. Do not take it somewhere else.
Right.
They're now targeting our children and young adults through Snapchat. And they're befriending them. And then they come out 2 months later, give them one pill. Within 4 minutes, they're done.
Now, when you say they, if you
dealers.
can, okay.
Drug dealers.
So they're reaching out, they're basically just selling it, last deal. Here we go, buy that.
Or what they do is, because in Snapchat, a lot of our children talks about their pain. They talk about it. It's like their avenue to talk about their life.
To release it, right? Okay.
And so you get these individuals out, these drug dealers, young and old. Okay, they don't have to be 50 years old to sell these things. They go on there and they go, oh, I see this kid just got injured from sports and it's in a lot of pain. So I'm gonna befriend him. And then I'm going to go, hey, and then in the end, a month later, I'm like, hey, are you still in pain? I've got a pill that might help you.
So this isn't just to do with drugs. This is child abuse.
It's beyond it.
Because that's what you're doing,
They're
right?
intending to kill our children.
Oh, gosh.
And so we have a bill. It was SB 62, which would increase sentencing enhancement if anyone who possesses or with the intent to sell fentanyl, 1 kilo, will be put to jail an extra 3 years.
How much is a kilo?
So a kilo is about 2.2 pounds.
Okay.
Which 2.2 pounds doesn't sound a lot.
No.
Not for cocaine or heroin, okay?
Yeah.
But 2.2 pounds of fentanyl equals to 10,000 pills. 10,000 pills will kill 500,000 people, which means half of my Senate district will disappear.
Wow. So is it not possible to say it's illegal just to have it rather than giving a certain amount?
It's fentanyl. 1 milligram of fentanyl into any pill will kill you. 1 milligram, just for us to kind of see what that is, it's 1 grain of sand.
Wow.
1 grain of sand. That's it. That little thing can kill a human being in 4 minutes. Wow. And so that's why I'm begging all parents, and we've been traveling, to different school districts as well. Mm-hmm. I know that you might think there's no way my kid's going to do that. Trust
they wouldn't
me.
know.
Most of these young adults and these children, as I mentioned, never went out and sought for fentanyl.
Right.
And these are children who are going to go to Harvard, bound for Cornell,
right,
bound for Stanford,
yeah,
never done drugs in their life,
right,
never smoked in their
right.
life. Just wanted that 1 pill
yeah.
to help ease their pain. Because for whatever reason, they didn't want to tell mommy and daddy, uncle and aunt, whatever it is.
Right.
Just go talk to them and say, hey, if you ever need one, talk to me.
Right.
Let me know.
Yeah.
Because I will get it for you and I will help.
Yeah.
And remind them that these are out there. And it also where now my children, I've told them, even though it's a bag of Skittles from a friend that they've known since birth, they're not, if it's open, they're not taking it.
Well, actually, when I visited your office about a month or so ago, next to a huge map that Ben was going through, showing us all your area, and we nearly fell over because it was like taller than we were. You had a huge bag there, and it looked so inviting because it just did look like Skittles. And the idea of it is that there is a bag of fentanyl.
Yeah.
And
it
I
actually
could get
isn't the one in my office.
No, I know it's not because you would get arrested for that.
Yeah.
But it was so inviting.
Yeah.
You wouldn't think of any. You could have been in a little bowl. You would have never known.
Exactly. So the bag actually was for me. I used it to make my presentation when I spoke on behalf of my bill in the Senate Public Safety Committee. That bag has we had 300 Smartie candies in it. Mm-hmm. It's a half. It's half a bag of a gallon Ziploc bag.
Okay.
So I held it up to let the committee know is that this is one bag of 300. My bill, you would have to hold 10 bags because it's 300 pills. So 10 bags would equal to the 10,000 pills. Mm-hmm. This is what we're talking about. You cannot mistake this to be a user. Mm-mm. Users don't take, 1 or 2 pills, maybe.
Well, if they kill in 4 minutes, you're not going to be a user for long. You don't need that many bags, do you?
And so, unfortunately, my bill was killed by the Senate Public Safety. But what we were able to do is we got the Assembly side, AB 701, which I became a principal co-author, the only senator to do so, because it's an identical bill to my Senate bill.
Okay.
Which passed the Assembly, passed public safety already in our Senate side.
Right.
And so now it's waiting to head to the Senate floor after it's finished the appropriation of a few other committees. And so, this is where it is depressing because Sacramento, the supermajority don't think this is a pressing issue. We are literally, and I stood on the Senate floor and I said, we are literally watching a whole generation vanish before our eyes.
Right.
And we're not doing anything. And I'm scared to death to even let my children out.
No, I understand that. It is because they're not thinking about it ever.
No, and the thing is that the whole idea of criminal justice reform in Sacramento is what they're thinking. And so they don't want to incarcerate anybody. But I said, these people their intent is to kill our children. I'm sorry, they should be incarcerated.
Right.
The less drug dealers out there, the better it is. And especially when you are holding a kilo, that's beyond mass murder.
Right. Yeah.
I mean,
because it can kill an awful lot of people.
500,000 people.
Right.
Orange County, we're so blessed to have our Orange County Sheriff, Don Barnes. Just last year alone, his office confiscated 446 pounds approximately of fentanyl, which would have killed 30 million people in California.
You see, I think the other thing that people don't realize about it, because they just listen to the numbers, COVID, look what we all did for COVID. And look what fentanyl does. So really, at the end of the day, we did all that for COVID that didn't kill half of what a bag of these pills can do.
So, just the numbers last year, what I realized is that the 400 it would kill 136 million people.
Oh my gosh.
So it'll wipe out California, wipe out many other states. Mm-hmm. And so these are the things that we don't understand. I don't understand why we're not stepping up to the plate.
Right.
And so I've been begging every opportunity I can to my Senate Democrats, the majority party, the supermajority party, is when will they step up to the plate and make this happen?
Right.
And so, I'm glad that now we have an identical bill that is an assembly bill now, but it was my Senate bill, which now I'm the principal co-author. It is moving. And so we are moving the right direction and not, but it's taken us months to get where we were. Right. So this bill was introduced back in January.
Right.
Now, it finally just went through a week or two ago now on the Senate Public Safety Committee. Right. And so that's where it just makes no sense, because the criminal justice reform mindset is honestly, it's gone to the point where there's no consequences in California if you commit a crime. And, not only fentanyl is an issue.
Shoplifting, right?
Smash and grab.
Right. It's everywhere.
Yeah. Given my district, I've got Cerritos Mall. I've got Westminster Mall. Mm-hmm. I've got Fashion Island. Right. I have Bella Terra in Huntington Beach. You name it. All the malls in my Asian mall, right, in Little Saigon,
the one down towards San Clemente there, that big area,
the outlet in San Clemente, yeah. So it's like every mall in my district that has a jewelry shop has been robbed. Wow! And you now literally can walk into a Target and then see somebody walk out with items, right? This is not what we want to encourage. Right. And the other part is a lot of our homes are being burglarized.
Oh, wow.
And it's not just homes it's gated community and non-gated community in my district. Mm-hmm. And then even homes that are being burglarized now in my district, in the southern part of my district that has harbors, they actually are now coming in with boats. They'll drive around because most people don't lock their
back area because it's their backyard, isn't it? It's
the water harbor is their backyard. Right. So they sometimes don't close it because who would jump into their deck or their dock, right? Right. So now you have these very sophisticated criminals who are now getting a small boat, jumps onto the dock, rob, and jump back out and leave.
Oh my gosh.
And so you've got, and then, our neighborhood a few months ago, within 2 days, 2 home burglaries. Across the street from us, 3 house down, on our street, 4 house down. Wow. And the police department came by our house because we have security cameras out front as well, and asked my husband, because I wasn't home, I was in Sacramento, if he can look to see he can this specific time frame to see
who can buy or whatever. Right.
They're so sophisticated, Andrew, that they actually have a device now to block our internet system.
Oh wow! Right, okay.
So they would shut down your internet system, because if you have to bring cameras, they can shut down your internet system.
That makes
in
sense.
those few minutes.
Yeah.
And that's what happened with our security system.
And then they won't be able to catch them because it's attached, isn't it?
Yep.
So it'll go down.
So,
We used to have things like that in the army. It's called a white sifter, and it would block all signals.
Yep.
And it wasn't helpful because people in the area knew we were there because the TV had suddenly go off. So then they knew the army were outside. So it really gave us away. But that's high tech, isn't it?
It's high tech. And so this is where, my priorities, one, is dealing with the homelessness issue.
Right.
2 is dealing with making sure that we look at our so-called criminal justice reform mindset in Sacramento. We need to make sure that people know when you commit a crime, there will be consequences.
I can see why you're thinking coming back into local government. It makes it. I can see the pattern.
And then the other part is making sure that we help stabilize inflation and the economy.
Right.
And, with the economy is helping small businesses, deregulation, assisting them getting through the red tape.
Right.
If I make a phone call and I'm a sitting senator, and if it's difficult for me without help of a senator,
right.
Can you imagine what it'd be for another individual? Now, even make it even more is that what if that individual don't understand English well?
Right.
I mean, having that, my family escaped communism in Vietnam. My father served for the South Vietnam Army, and my uncle actually also served. He was an officer. He was executed days before Saigon fell. And so my father was sought for re-education stamp. So we escaped. I arrived here in 1981 in California. I'm a California girl. And we arrived here in 81. And, at the time, we were, as new refugees, we were poor. We were on welfare. We were on food stamps.
Right.
I spoke no English. I was only 5 years old. And so, this country has given families like mine an opportunity.
Right.
Not just for a better life, but a life. Had I lived in Vietnam, I might not even be alive.
Right.
And so that's the things that, we as senators are here to help, whether there might be some language barrier or not, we're here. And that's our job, is to assist individuals through the red tape, through the difficulty of government. But also, though, I also know it's not easy to call government, because when you have worked all your life and all of a sudden you're going through difficult times and now you need government programs, you don't want to. But those government programs are there when you need it the most. And that's what my family did. We needed it. Once we were able to get ourselves out, look at where we are.
Yeah.
There's not many countries, actually not any that I know of, when a refugee who spoke no English on welfare food stamps can go and walk into that Capitol 30 years later as a state senator. There's only one country that can do that.
I was just about to say the same thing. And I think it's only, being an immigrant myself, we appreciate it even more. That, I know for a fact, I don't think I would have got to the level where I am now in my career if I'd have still been back in the UK. And you're right. Where else would you have an opportunity to go to a country and start off fresh, already unlearning what you knew, learning a new system, and then getting to where you are today? It is amazing. And that really is the American dream. That's what it is. It's possible to do it if you're prepared to do it.
Exactly. I'll even add to what you just said. Actually in Vietnam, most people don't have a car.
Right.
You won't even have the privilege of it. And there's no street lights. There's no rules. Try to cross that street in Vietnam. And the other thing is, if you go back to the village in Vietnam today, this is what people live. And we take it for granted in America. Okay, we have a toilet. We have clean water.
Right.
Now there are areas in our state that has some problems. I'm not saying it's perfect system, but this is what's in Vietnam right now. I haven't been back since I left there, but this is what I've been told. Go to the village. That river is where you can get your water.
Right.
For your food to cook. It's also the river where you're going to bathe. It's also the river where you go into the bathroom.
Right.
So help me understand.
So do all the animals go there too.
Exactly.
Right.
So that's the thing that people don't understand what we have in America. It's a land of opportunity. It's a land where we can have the American dream. We just need to aim high, keep running, and work really hard. Because if someone like me can get to where I am today, the next Janet Nguyen or the next Janet can also do it.
Yeah.
But if we keep on blaming the system, it doesn't help.
No.
It doesn't help because we, in the end, need to look at ourselves.
Yeah.
If we want to do better, if we want to provide for our family, every parent, I'm not going to speak on behalf of every parent, but for me, I want my children to have a better life than I did. To maybe give them a little bit easier pathway than I had to go through. That's all we want as parents, right? We just want them to have a little more than we did. And to provide for them, to get them ready. When we're not around anymore, they're ready and they're going to run with it.
Leave them something better.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's what you can do that in America. Go to other country.
Yeah.
You really can.
Yeah, it's difficult.
It's
and it's
very
that very
difficult.
system that makes sure that our water is clean, or that people can't bathe in it, or the animals, the sewage doesn't run into there. So really, if you think about it, it's just all one big hand-holding thing. It's just trying to figure out and negotiate around it.
Yeah.
Or navigate.
Exactly. I mean, we need the government, but we also need the government to allow us to make our own decisions as well.
And that's what I liked when your first thing you started off with today was that you listen to people, and that's half the stuff you go round and change as a bill is from somebody's idea. So it's perfect.
Yeah, no, and I love being in my district. Most of the community leaders in our district, obviously it's a lot difficult for me this time around because the district is so large. But I'm out and about, we are up in Sacramento 9 months of the year, Monday through Thursday. And so when I'm here back Thursday evening, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I'm at parades, events, ribbon cuttings, you name it. And it's great because, a lot of members don't do that, but I love it because then I get to hear from individuals, whether they're just a random mom or dad, or a high school student, a college student, or the mayor.
Right.
It doesn't matter. I get to hear what's going on because they have the pulse of the community because they're closer to the community than I am in Sacramento. But I never forget where I come from.
Right.
And I always want to make sure that I hear their voices and concerns.
That's awesome. Now, as we're wrapping up this episode here, we could talk for days, but we don't have that time, and you don't either. Maybe there's something that I missed on you would like to share with anyone. Is there anything you would like to finish off or wrap our episode up with today?
I just want to thank you for having me. It's actually been very fun. But I would like, though, what I want to do is give my district office address and phone number and my email so those individuals who would like to communicate with us. Our district office address is 301 Main Street, Suite 212 in the city of Huntington Beach. Our phone number is 714-374-4000. So 714-374-4000. Or you can email me at senator.nguyen. And I pronounce it Nguyen because then that's easier for people to know that it has an N to it. And that's Nguyen at senate.ca.gov. So, please let us know, even if just, to say hello or just to give us an opinion, because your opinion does matter. And I will take it when I make my comments on the Senate floor or in committee. It's nice for me to say I had 300 residents in my district who opposed this bill versus I opposed the bill.
Right.
It gives that validation that, people are concerned. Because when you're concerned and you voice your concerns, it's a lot louder than just my voice alone.
Right. Well, Senator Nguyen, thank you so very much for coming here today. Thank you for your staff for setting this up as well. Really appreciate it. And I know, talking about young boys, I met them earlier. Thank you for bringing them in today. You're a trooper, and we really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in, and we hope you'll visit nocchamber.com and select Sign Up for News at the top of the page and join our emailing list. For more interviews, visit chambertalk.podbean.com, and we invite you to like, follow, and share Chamber Talk.